Awesome. There we go. So, hello everyone. I'm Coach Joe. This is my show, Awesome Active Life Coaches. I'm here with a fellow coach, Renee Ryan. We're both graduates of ECCP, which is the Elite Coaching Certification Program. Renee, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. I know your time is important. So, this time is really about you and who you are and what you do and how you serve your clients. So, with that being said, tell us a little bit about you and how you got started in this work.
So I became a single mum about 3 years ago, and there was a lot of very high expectations that I had for myself becoming a mum for the first time, a single mum for the first time. I felt like I had to be stoic, keep everything together, prove to everyone that I had everything under control, and inside that just wasn't the case. I was constantly yelling at my son. I found it hard to regulate my emotions. Just everything unraveled and came undone, and it forced me to take a look inward, because I didn't want to be a mum that raged at her son. Like, being a mum forced me to go inward because he was hurting, as we all were at that point. I was grieving the loss of a relationship. I was trying to find out who I was outside of a relationship, and I put so much pressure on myself. So that's really what started me down this personal development, road. And I found Sean on one of his videos, and that just led down the rabbit hole of going through BCC and ECCP, and it was, I'd been in therapy and counseling and all sorts of, doctor's offices, and they all focused on my backstory and the symptoms that I was having and the behaviors, but they never actually focused on what was going on underneath. I never felt like I could move forward with any real long-term results. And that's what transformational coaching has done for me. In the space of probably 6 months, it literally changed my life. Like, we've all had those light bulb moments, and when you share them with other people and you see those light bulb moments in your clients, it's, for lack of a better word, breathtaking. It's a double-edged sword. Like, there's no other work that I've been in that forces me to look inward and propel my own self-growth, as well as seeing others go through the same. There's nothing else like it that I've experienced. Really profound.
So, how difficult would you say it was for you to look inward and do that?
At first, I thought I could handle it. I've always been I've always studied the self, like myself. It can be scary. Sometimes you don't want to look at it. And we don't want to integrate the parts of ourselves that we've been pushing down for so long. It forces you to take a hard look at your soul and things that aren't really serving you anymore, that are holding you back, actually, to get to the life and the place that you want to be. But it's so worth it. It's just really worth it.
Yeah, life-changing stuff, really, is
Yeah.
that I would say it is. So, within all that you've learned, who do you coach now, and what do you coach them on?
I coach women. I coach them on intergenerational trauma passed down from mothers to daughters. it's a lot of the values and the societal systemic programming that's been passed down from, the patriarchal society that we have today. It forces us to sort of really look at the questions and the beliefs that we've been passed down, because a lot of what women believe in families also holds them in silence, and it holds them in their pain, and it's very limiting. And I want to give these women a safe space to uncover who they are. I mean, they are a woman first. They were a woman first before they became a mother, before they became a partner. And I found that's what really, that's really where my mum rage stemmed from. It's because I'd forgotten who I was. I'd forgotten the dreams that I'd thrown to the wind. I mourned the life that I had before I became a mum. I didn't know how hard it was going to be, let alone becoming a single mum. And looking at the really high expectations that we have for ourselves, and looking at the support systems. Like, the number one pain that my clients have is it can be loneliness and lack of support. And there's a really big untapped resource there of actual female friendships, true female friendships. Yeah. Like, I remember the first day I became a single mum, I was moving house. I had a good friend, and she helped me move house all day. And I'd finally settled into the house for a couple of hours, and then I went to go downtown to pick up my son, and I realized that I'd locked the keys in the house. And it was just an emotional, overwhelming day. And I rang her crying, just saying, look, can you please take me down to get my keys from the real estate? And she said, yeah, sure. And that moment, I realized how important it was to rely on other women for support, and knowing that they will be there for you.
Yeah. And I think it's great that you mentioned that there's a huge untapped resource out there, because I have a client right now who is going through what you just talked about, and has been going through that for a little over a year now. And she's just now learning that there are females out there who actually really care for her, and who, aren't going to toss her to the wind. They check in on her and things like that. And she's not used to having that type of support. So I think it's great that you mentioned that. And wonderful work that you're doing, by the way. Congratulations on that. And all the success you're having within that. Now, when you talked about values earlier when you were speaking, would you care to share any of those values with us that you were speaking of?
My personal values?
Sure.
So I value serving others. That's really important for me, first and foremost.
Yeah.
I value giving women a voice, so that they're not remaining invisible. That's what keeps me up at night. It's what drives me to keep going every day, because I know the long-term effects of what remaining silent can do for your self-worth and how you parent and how you show up in the world. And I know so many, even just previous generations and to this one that I'm in, we still believe that we can't speak our truth. We can't tell it because it's complaining or it's airing our dirty laundry. And that's just not the case.
Mm-hmm.
People are willing to listen, and people are willing to offer support. And I'm an advocate for that.
I think it's great that you bring that up too, because there's a lot of people out there that believe that talking about these things or crying about these things is weakness. And it's like, well, on the other side of weakness is power, and there is power in what they're calling weakness. When we tap into that power, that changes the game, when we go into our inner self. And I'm curious, because I'm doing a lot of inner child work right now. With your clients, do you find that it always seems to go back to something that developed in or throughout their childhood?
Yeah, very much so. Like I first learned that through my own experiences, but also there may be a time in their life when they wanted to speak out and they were shut down,
Mm-hmm.
or they might have just been completely disregarded, and they've taken that on as they're not worthy of people's time. They're not. Their voice has no value in this world.
And that's heartbreaking stuff, really.
And
To
they
not
take that
feel.
they take that into adulthood when they become parents, and especially moms. They feel like they have to be a mom and a dad.
Mhm.
And I had to learn I don't have to be a mom and a dad.
Right.
And one thing that I learned from one of my peer coaches is how important it is to cry in front of my son.
Yeah.
Because I realized he'd never seen me cry.
Mm.
I was holding it all together. I was yelling at my son during the day, and when he'd go to bed at night, I'd be on the kitchen floor crying uncontrollably because I just felt so guilty.
Yeah.
But it's okay for him to see me cry. I realize how important that is for him growing up and in his own relationships, because he needs to see that.
How powerful a moment was that for you when you first did that? When you first cried in front of him?
It was so scary. It was so challenging, to be honest.
Mm.
I tried holding it in because that's what my body did in front of him. But when he wrapped his little arms around my neck and said, "Mummy, it's going to be okay," sometimes we just need that.
Yeah.
And kids have an innate way of just simplifying things in the moment. And I've also told him, look, Mummy's going to cry sometimes, but Mummy's okay, and Mummy's going to look after Mummy. That's not your responsibility. I've never put that onto him. But
Good.
I'm trying to get women to understand that it can sometimes be disempowering when we tell each other, keep your chin up, stay strong.
Right.
It's like we don't always feel like being strong.
Yeah.
We don't always feel like keeping our chin up. Sometimes we want to crawl into a ball on the floor and just let it out.
Yeah. And
We're
it's
tired of
important.
being
Yeah.
strong all the time.
Yeah. And I think, we need to normalize that as a society. It's okay to cry, whether you're man, woman, or child. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. And, I feel like if more men and more women did that,
Mhm.
we'd have a much better world, because we're not holding in this emotion that can cause anxiety and stress and depression and rage and all these other things. And I see you nodding your head, so I think we're in alignment and agreement on that, but I don't want to assume anything. But do you agree with
Well,
that, or do you have a different opinion?
yeah, absolutely. It's become more prevalent than ever since becoming a single mum of a boy. Um, and he has this really good way of mirroring back to me my behaviors and my words, and it forces me to go inward. He's been my biggest teacher.
Yeah.
He's um, like, I don't want, my internalized misogyny. It's, I used to call him a princess and a sook, and it didn't feel good because he'd become disconnected. And
Mhm.
since I've stopped doing that, in the moments when he is crying, I connect with my inner child Missy Moo. And I just sit with him.
Yeah.
And I let him come to me. I don't force myself like to cuddle him. I can just sit next to him and just be there for him. And sometimes that's all they want. They don't want you to fix it. They don't want you to give them answers or project anything on them. It's just holding space. And that's allowed me to hold space really, really well for my clients as well. The patience. Yeah.
Well, you're doing an amazing job. Thank you for being vulnerable and honest with everything you're saying, because I know that message alone is going to help a ton of the viewers here, moms and dads both. And it's so important for us to understand that when our child is crying, they're pushing us away. That's not something that we need to take personally. That's just something that we need to understand, that we can just be there and be present. And if they want to come to us and hug us or sit in our lap or ask us to read them a story or whatever it is, then we're there to do that, but we're not forcing ourselves upon them. And I think that's just a wonderful thing, to hold that space. And as coaches, that is what we do for our clients. We hold that non-judgmental space, and we just are there to be a guidance system and an ear, without judgment. And it's just a wonderful.
I want him to understand that everything he has to live a life that he wants is already inside him, and just as it is in each and every human. Like when we put other people on a pedestal, we're disempowering ourselves. And when we become self-righteous and egotistical, we think we're above each other. And more times than not, something will give you a kick in the bum to return you to that natural alignment, that balance. But everything that like, I'm no more spectacular than you or any other person that I surround myself with. Yeah, I mean, I could just be a few decisions away from life-altering changes and circumstances. Money comes and goes, but it's what we have in us as humans at our core that binds us. And it's normalizing that. 100%. Normalizing feelings for boys as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting that you say, everything we have is inside us, because I was just having that conversation with more than one of my clients today. And one of the clients was talking about how they don't have any money and they don't know what to do. And so I said the same thing, everything you have is inside you, and money is not external, but it's internal. And totally confused when I said that. And I said, everything you need is right here. Right. And so within probably 10 minutes, this client of mine that I was talking to came up with a way to make $1,000 in a day, because she just had never thought of it before. And I was like, okay, well, there you go. You can work at McDonald's or you can do this. Which one are you more aligned with? And it's just amazing that you said that, because, I'm like, okay, this is the universe showing me that I'm in alignment with other coaches and with other clients. And so that's a real gift for me. And I think for the people that see this as well, and possibly for you as well. So thank you for that.
No worries. It's amazing that just the way we're able to challenge how people think, not necessarily what they think. Because as coaches, we don't tell people what to think. People are going to think what they want to think. And if they're wanting to change that, we can work on the how. But everything you have is inside. Every skill, every tool, every trait. When you look at someone famous and you idolize them, everything that you are realizing that you love about them is completely in you, whether you see it or not. It's choosing to acknowledge that those traits are in you as well, and you can live a phenomenal life.
What do you need, honey?
I want it.
You want what, baby?
Hot chocolate.
A hot chocolate? Is mommy here right now?
I told her.
Okay.
I want it.
Hey, Makani, can you see if there's any hot chocolate you can find for her,
No,
please?
Loki's hot chocolate.
Oh, well, is that the one she got from school? You think maybe she could share it with you?
She said no, we can't have it.
Could you ask her if maybe you guys could split it?
What?
Can you ask her if you guys could split it? She could have half and you could have half?
No, she said she's saving it though.
Well, why don't you give her that idea and tell her that I gave you that idea and see what she says? So this is Zoe. Zoe is 6. Careful, honey. You're going to cut your fingers, okay? I don't want you to
He's younger than my boy.
And she's got. Okay, thank you. So Zoe has autism for anyone that doesn't know, but we don't, label her as autistic. She just has autism.
Yeah.
So
Zoe
sorry
is
about
just
that.
Zoe.
Yeah, Zoe's just Zoe. So, oh, honey, I
Yep.
need that, okay? Because that is my key. You want to go put that in my room in a safe spot? I need that to unlock the gate, okay? Can you go put it in a safe spot for me? Okay. Deal with that later.
That's more than fine. It's part of going live.
Yeah,
Anything's
absolutely.
expected, Just roll with it.
I get dogs jumping in my lap and her jumping in my lap.
Open it.
Absolutely.
How do you open it? No, I have to show you later. Maybe you can figure it out. It's like a puzzle. Not like that. You're gonna hurt your finger. You got to get the key off of the ring and then open it that way. See if you can figure it out. You can do it. You're smart. So, speaking of autism and things like that, you did a really cool series on ADHD, and I'd love if you're comfortable with it, if we could talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, can you tell
What
us a
would you
little
like
bit
to
about?
know? Okay, so I said, what would you like to know? Is there anything in particular?
Yeah. Well, how does that affect you as a coach and as a parent?
It affects my entire existence. I wish I could say it was just like a one-off, sort of when I go to bed or I'm tired. But it shows up whether I want it to or not. I can manage it, but it's never cured. And
Daddy,
it makes me time blind. I was actually hoping that I wasn't going to be turning up to this late. I'm fantastical with that sort of thing. It affects me in my parenting more than anything, because I found it hard to self-regulate my emotions because I'd never been taught. And being a single mom, like being a mom is hard. Being a single mom on top of that is hard enough. And then you've got ADHD on top of that. So I've learned to pick my battles. I've learned to really, really prioritize my own self-care. And I'm not talking scented baths and nice smelling oils and stuff like that. It's getting rest, like a lot of rest and a lot of time to myself, and really turning off the guilt as much as I can. Because there are days when I feel like I'm failing because my house looks like a bomb hit it. And there are times when I have to outsource as well. I get someone to mow my lawn because my energy is just too flat after that. I've got nothing left for Caleb. And instead of giving my energy to things that, need doing but aren't of great importance, I outsource that. being protective of your energy is really, really important. Like putting up boundaries, knowing where you end and somewhere else begins, like in relationships. Like my friendships, they taught me about secure attachment, funnily enough. Because I always thought, if I rocked up to someone's house and knocked on the door and they didn't want to see me, I'd take that personally. But now I have the friendships in my life that we may not see each other for 2 weeks. But we're thick as thieves, and we know that we've got our own lives and our own stuff going on. But community is a really big thing for me as well. Yeah, we need the support. Especially neurodivergent people, we need that extra support circle around us. Medication is not enough, and unfortunately, sometimes that's just sort of what gets thrown at you. And I was missing that element of it for many, many years. Yeah, it's really tough.
Yeah, I think
Especially
it's
because
great.
women don't get diagnosed till later in life as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, speaking of that, I've got 3 children that are neurodivergent, right? And as far as I know, I'm neurotypical, right? So, developing that understanding, because they're all at different levels, right? They all have different ways that they cope with things. And it's not a way that I would cope with things, right?
Yeah.
So I have to take what I would do out of it and what I think out of it, right? And I got to look at what they're telling me and what signals they're giving me. And when you talked about failure because of, your house being maybe a little bit cluttered or whatnot, that hit home for me because I've got 5 kids in the home, right?
Yeah, we all.
And I'm the stay-at-home, work-at-home dad, and my wife is out working. She just barely got home, right? So before we hopped on here, I just finished dinner, right? And while she was away, I was doing other interviews and coaching and whatnot. So even right now, my house is not the shape that I'd like it to be in, right? And one of the things is I was actually coaching somebody else, and this was like shortly after graduating from ECCP, right? Shortly after that, I was doing a coaching session, and I realized that chaos and that clutter is actually a blessing, because one day it won't be there for whatever reason,
Yeah.
And so when I look at it like that, instead of getting that feeling of failure, it's this feeling of love. And when we can look at things like that and find that opposite end and that better, more empowering end, and it's a game changer, because I don't like clutter. My desk is a little cluttered right now. It's driving me nuts, right? But I'm focused in the present because I like my desk clean. I don't like food or water on my desk. But my daughter just came over here and opened up chocolate chip cookies or Oreos. Right? I've got like 2 water bottles and there's an ice tea and a Snap.
I get that.
And so it's like, okay, these are like 12 things. And I'm going, okay, do I have ADHD? I don't know, maybe,
Yeah.
But the importance and the reason I say that is because it's like, find that love within the chaos, right? Because one day it'll all be gone. So I would love it, and I invite you to do this. Do what I do. Take that with you, so you don't have to feel like a failure, because you're not failing at all. You're doing an amazing job, and I think it's important to recognize that and to recognize you for that, because you probably don't get told that enough. I don't think any single mom does, and they need to know that they are valued and appreciated, even by those who aren't present in their physical life.
Yeah.
So
I thank you for that. I really do receive your words, and I appreciate that. It's knowing my limits and what I'm, there's some days I can only make it to the lounge, and I'm okay with that. I'm getting better with that. you know, I celebrate the fact that my son's only had 2 days off school this year, the whole year. Like, that's a lot of lunches and a lot of school trips, and yeah, he's fairly resilient and he's doing really well. So I must be doing something right in the mix. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
tough.
think you're doing a lot. You know, you're doing a lot right. And there's always that parental pull, right, where we want to be there and make sure everything's going. And you know, some people call it helicopter parenting or whatever, right? And the thing is, it's not that we're helicopter parenting. We just want our child to be safe and successful, you know, for
Absolutely.
whatever that means for them, you know. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, you know, I'll have some parents who, my kid needs to do this, he needs to do that. And I go, have you asked them what they want to do?
Mm,
Have you asked them what they,
yeah.
you know, because our needs and wants may not be in alignment with their needs and wants. You know, we want them to go off to
Not
college and
very
they
much
might
so.
want to start a business,
Yeah.
you know. So it's just important to check in with them on that, in my opinion. And you might have a different opinion, but that's the way that I feel about it, you know.
One positive that I do notice that I really do love about my ADHD is I can be super playful and super
Yeah.
weird and super like witty and just random stuff at the drop of a hat.
Right.
And Caleb loves that. He loves that. But I can also be his mum at the same time and give him guidance and support. But I love that I can just be goofy old me. And he just, yeah. he
You know,
takes that on board as, you know, it gives him permission to do the same, because life
yeah.
doesn't have to be so serious all the time.
No, we need that. We need to be playful like that and weird and witty and all that. You know, I think if we access that more, that's another one of those things where the world would be a better place. You know, access that inner child and let it play, and you know, be
Kids just want
sexy.
to play, regardless of whether they're neurodivergent or not. They just want to play.
Yeah,
It doesn't
exactly.
matter how much money you bring to the table or whether you're tired or whether you need to work. They just want to play. That's all they know.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
that's such an important point that you bring up. That's just amazing. I love that you brought that up. And I think I can safely say I've never heard anyone say I love my ADHD, and I absolutely love that. So I wanted to point that out because I don't think I've ever heard anybody ever say that. You know, and I'm approaching 49 years old, so that's a pretty cool thing to hear. You know, a lot of people don't acknowledge that part of it. You know, and I think it's so important to point that out, that you just acknowledge that so that other people can look at it and reframe it that way. Like, this is not a negative in my life. It gives me power and opportunity to do this over here. What a powerful statement. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Well, so 6:03 in my time, I think about 1:03 your time, if I'm
Yep.
correct. So I don't want to keep you too long. Is there any one thing that you would like to say to the viewers? Any one tip you would give or piece of advice that you think would be super helpful?
The one thing that helped me in the first year of becoming a single mum is just remember that you're a woman first, before you're a mum, before you're a partner, before you are a work colleague. You are a woman first, and honor and celebrate that, because you do have hopes and dreams that are waiting for you to reconnect with that part of yourself. When you take your mum hat off, you are still a woman first.
Amazing. That's wonderful. Thank you for that. Now, before we get off, is there any, oh, excuse me, let me reframe that question. Do you have any workshops, any coaching programs, things like that that are available or coming up?
I do have one in the works at the moment. It's how newly single mums can survive their first year with the grieving process and finding their own identity and learning to stand on their own 2 feet and not just survive but thrive. I'm also starting a children's book, Missy Moo, I See You. It's about my inner child and just recognizing her and the importance of others doing so as well. So yeah, they're in the making at the moment. So keep an eye out for them.
Oh, really cool stuff. That's awesome. I look forward to seeing that, especially a children's book. So if somebody wants to reach out to you, get a hold of you, how can they do that?
My handle is at Coach Renee at Coach Renee Ryan on most platforms. Yeah, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome.
Message
All
me.
right. There you go. Well, thank you so much, Renee. It's been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate your time and the valuable information that you gave. So this has been
Likewise, guys.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. This has been Awesome Active Life Coaches with Renee Ryan. And this is my show. I'm Joe Peoples. Renee just told you how you can reach her. I'm also on Facebook at Joseph Peoples, and I'm Joseph Peoples on most platforms. So that's where you can find me. Thank you for being here with us tonight, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you.